Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Eric Karpinski. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, Life Unscripted. I'm so grateful to have you here today. How are you?
I'm doing so great, Christina. Thank you so much for being on. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, me too. We're going to talk about your latest book, and we're going to go deep onto one topic of it because there's a lot of juicy content, but it's Put Happiness Back to Work, 7 Strategies to Elevate Engagement for Optimal Performance with you, the author. And today we're going to hit on social connection. One thing I've gotten so much from both the companies I work with and employees and managers is this kind of disconnectedness, not only with their teams and each other, but also with their personal lives, with the staying at home orders and a lot of people being locked up. It's been harder to really build those social connections. So I know you're going to have a load of content for that, but share about your passion. What even prompted you to write your book?
Yeah. So I've known from the beginning that I've always wanted to be happy, right? So many of us have that as kind of a life goal, and society laid out a pretty clear path for me, right? Eric, if you work hard, then you become successful, and you'll be able to make money and have flexibility in your life, and you'll be happy. So I took that in and really like took it to heart. And I said, okay, this is it. So fast forward 20 years, all of that hard work and quite a bit of luck got turned into a biochemistry degree from Brown, an MBA from Wharton. I landed several, and my resume is full of highly sought after jobs, making plenty of money, right? At the end of this sort of 20 years, I was making lots of money. I moved to San Diego. I've got a couple kids and a wonderful wife. I was more successful in every aspect of my life than I ever expected to be. Mm-hmm. And yet I was miserable. This constant drive for more success, the next promotion, the next raise, more, right? And to maintain that constant level of success, right, takes this constant drive. And so there's this constant stress of, am I doing enough? Should I do more? Should I do more? And that, of course, led to anxiety. My anxiety turned into insomnia. And that really, once you're not sleeping well, boy, it's real hard to keep your emotions in check. So it literally led to depression, and it led to therapists, and it led to antidepressant drugs and all that. So in 2008, I sort of popped up off of this, after this career, and been like, what am I doing? Like, is this what I want? And I realized I could not succeed my way to happiness. Now I was trained as a scientist. So I said, well, what does science say about happiness? What does the research say? And there's this wonderful new field of research. I mean, it's not a new field. It's a new focus of psychology research and organizational research. This is about, hey, why don't we study what people do well? Why don't we study how we can help people flourish, how we can help add more happiness and meaning and engagement to people? And it's called positive psychology, and it's got obviously a lot of neuroscience in it and organizational behavior. And there is just this treasure trove of peer-reviewed research talking about happiness, talking about meaning. And not only what's great is not only does this stuff feel good when we're happier, it actually helps drive success. It drives us to be more engaged. And I started with the tools in my own life and really applying it to myself, finding ways to create more social support and connection, finding ways to tap into my energizing strengths and my core values, learning to work with my stress and my negative emotions. And so 2 years after sort of doing my self-work, I was like, people need to know about this.
Yeah.
So I switched my careers in 2010, and I said, I'm going to spend my career, my life teaching people these things. And I've been working with organizations for that whole time. And that really helped lead to the idea of, wow, I've learned a lot. I've taken 20 years of this great research, applied it, and really understand how to make it work in an organization and on teams. So I decided to write a book, and that's McGraw-Hill published it in March. So it's only a couple months old. And and Adam Grant, Sean Aker, Dan Pink all have endorsed it. So that's where we are.
Yeah. Well, I love this because, it's interesting. I was on the same hamster wheel you were on all through my early 20s. I had this idea. This is what success looks like. It's moving up the corporate ladder. It's getting to VP status or higher. And then I'll be happy. And so you strive for these things. And then sometimes you get there and you're like, well, you know what? That's interesting. I'm not really happy. Why? And because, you're not My personal understanding was that you're not really filling your purpose. It's like, what is your greatest gifts and talents that you can present the world and give to the world your best, not what someone told you should be reaching for. Yeah. So it's just a whole, and then, so my whole focus was like, okay, my idea of success is, having a great family and doing what I love. Hence talking to you right now.
Right. Exactly. Finding, it's not hard. We just need to realize that the way that society kind of pushes us isn't necessarily the way that's going to reach more happiness. And so we need to find those things. And that's what I love about the research, is it really is clear. These are the things you need to do. Very practical.
Yeah, it's so bright. Now, we're going to talk and go deeper today on the social connection. I know that you've had a lot of experience with this. What's your understanding? What's your take talking to business owners and individuals on social connection?
Yeah. So I'm excited to dive into the deets. Before I do, though, I want to talk about a concept that I put in the book and a concept that I put in that is going to really be important as we go into this next section, as I answer this question. And that's, I think of this book and I think of this, and for the listener, think of this as kind of an action buffet, right? There are so many, I'm going to give you a bunch of tools, a bunch of ideas for things that you can do. Don't think that you need to do them all. Pick one or two that sound fun, that sound interesting, that kind of pull you in. And try them out for a few days, right? Try them out for a few times. You can't, anytime you try something new, it's going to be a little weird, but if it's still awkward after 4 or 5 attempts, pick something else, right? Listen, figure it out. But when you find something that works for you and that works potentially for your teams, now you want to really integrate it into habits and into how you work every day, how you live your life every day. So, and you'll hear there's both personal habits and one-on-one habits that we can do with team members and team habits as we talk about it. So with that as a caveat, social connection, hugely important. It's a biological need. We have to be connected. We are a tribal species. If we are not happy, we end up dying early, unhealthy, and miserable. So we need to focus on it. And the great thing is there's benefits not only to feeling good, because having strong relationships helps us feel good and happy. It also really helps with engagement. And by the way, this is true for introverts just as much as it is for extroverts. It doesn't mean you have to have hundreds of friends and, you don't have to go be this wild person that you think you're supposed to be to meet other people. No, 3 or 4 solid relationships, that people that can lean on you, people you can lean on, people that know you, who you are. That's what we're talking about. And how you do it is, how many and all those things, totally up to you, but we need people and we need those social connections. So I think during the pandemic, obviously, a lot of us have really been hurt with social connection and masking and trying to do everything on video instead of in person. And there's good ways to do all of those things. But now as we're starting to get the vaccines distributed, we're starting to open up the world a little bit more. A lot of us are out of practice. A lot of us are out of practice with socially connecting with people that aren't in our household. And so what I'd like to suggest is 3 different personal habits. I just want to sort of highlight a few of them and then talk about a couple of the one-on-one and some team habits that I think that I found have been really effective at helping to recreate some of those connections. Okay. So, because the first thing we need to do in social connection is have the intention to create connection and be open to it when we come. So these 3 habits are all shown to not only increase our happiness while we're doing them and practicing them, but also increase our empathy, increase our desire to actually connect with others. So the first one is simply gratitude exercises have been something we've been studying for 20 years in positive psychology. This is a gratitude exercise really specifically about people. Think of 3 people in your lives. Just take a couple minutes each morning, write down 3 people in your lives and what you most appreciate about them. What is something, it doesn't have to be most, but what's one thing you appreciate about 3 different people? And just write them down. That's all you need to do. It turns your brain, it starts to rewire your brain for looking for the good things in others. Yeah. And that's so that's one.
I love it.
Just takes a couple minutes. Another one, what we call the conscious acts of kindness email or a text. So what you do is when you get to your laptop or you get to your phone each day, the first thing you do when you get to your email or a text is send a 2-line communication, text or email, to someone in your life telling them something that you appreciate about them,
Oh.
giving them some encouragement, sharing some good news. Only 2 lines. The important thing is sometimes when I get going on this, I'm like, oh, and what else I love about you? And nope, just stop at 2 sentences and send it. Because you want it to just take a couple minutes. Otherwise it's going to be hard for you to do it every day.
Yeah.
And you get in the habit. So that's the second one. And then the third one is something called connection meditation, what I call connection meditation. And this one's going to sound a little hippy dippy to some of your listeners, a little woo woo California, like I live in San Diego, right? So I can do it, but it's actually backed by a lot of research from Stanford, from the University of North Carolina, and it's got 5,000 years of history. So it's called connection meditation. It's also known as loving kindness meditation. It's known as metta meditation. And what you do is you just simply bring someone to mind that you're close to, that you love, and you send them some nice wishes, like, may you be happy, may you be healthy. You put them in your mind. You actually try to open to the love you feel for them, right? And you try to generate that. And then you bring up somebody else in your life, someone who you know reasonably well, but maybe there's a little bit of conflict, or maybe you want to know them better. And again, you try to send them some of those good wishes in that regard, while also sending them, may you be happy and may you be healthy. And by the way, each person can pick what those sentences are so that it fits with their personality. And then you bring a third person to mind, who's someone you don't know that well. And you send them the same wishes. And just this exercise is one that's been studied a lot just in the last few years. Really helps increase, again, our empathy, increases our interest in connecting, increases our ability to connect. So those are 3 personal habits that I think are really powerful.
Wow. I love these, Eric. Because it's funny. I started a new habit that I wasn't even planning on. I love funny. I love things that make you laugh. So awesome. I started looking for fun memes. And one thing I've really gotten into during the whole COVID thing, lockdown, was fitness. So I started working out, finding a bunch of really cool workouts online. And so what I do is I send out good morning, and I do a funny, like someone doing some really difficult, push up or something like that. And then I put like some words at the bottom saying, make it a awesome, healthful day, or whatever. And so people are like, always like, I can't wait to see your meme of the day that I make up. And I just started doing it as a way to be humorous. Yeah. And people are like, I can't wait to see what your next meme is going to be. And they're all positive and funny. I just want it to be humorous and make people laugh when they get it.
And that, you can see that as kind of an act of kindness for yourself, right? For other people, right? You get to put this thing out that's like helping others, and they get to be entertained, and it entertains you while you're doing it. So, anything that brings you happiness that obviously doesn't bring down anybody else is a tool, right? We all know some things that work for us. All I want to do is offer some other things that maybe people haven't thought of, or other ideas that we know from the research works. And so the personal habits is really an important place to start.
Yeah. And I really like the fact of, you had mentioned sending out good thoughts for people maybe you don't know as well, or maybe even have a little strife with, because there's been working situations where maybe there's some people you're not working well with, but you can still send out good thoughts about them, because that will put you in the mind space when you do talk to them. And it's interesting, Eric, because I find if I don't, I'm sure you get this, when you talk to someone sometimes and you're like, I know they don't like me, I don't know why. But it's because they're probably having not very nice thoughts about you. But there's something funky underneath your communication. Like you're all saying nice stuff to each other, but you can feel it isn't A-okay. So by doing this, you open up the channel for a positive experience between both of you.
Right. And you can't necessarily control others. All you can do is create the space for that positive connection to happen. Right. Yeah. And oftentimes people will feel that energy and come along, but it won't work all the time. And that's okay. Yeah. Because all you need to do is have 2 or 3 of your interactions in a day go a positive way instead of a negative or neutral way. And it creates so much energy, it creates so much ability to connect and make those relationships stronger.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing we did, and I really appreciate with the company I'm now working with, is they started to put together lunch dates between each other, where you'd get together, and sometimes even after work, you all get a glass of wine. And I remember when the whole letdown first happened, we were doing Tiger King together and all watching.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, because I think those are awesome things. If we can create those, I think of them sometimes as extracurricular activities, right? Outside of work. Yeah. And to have any way to do that is great. But I also want to be very conscious that we need to make sure that we also find ways to do things in-house, like in the office. And a couple of really cool ideas that I write about in the book and that I've seen work really well in your one-on-ones is making sure you start with some positive question, right? And my favorite one, start every like if you're a manager or leader of a team, and you of course you have some one-on-ones that you do probably pretty regularly. Start with a simple question. Hey, what's one good thing you've seen one of your team members do this week? Right? And it's amazing what this does, because if you do it and let's say you have a weekly meeting with several of your team members, and you do it week after week after week, it actually starts to train them, even if they're not being proactive about their own gratitude and things. It actually causes them. So, you know what? Sarah just did that thing. You know what? That's the thing I'm going to tell Eric this week. Right. And so it starts to train them to think about and notice the good things that people are doing for them, for the team, et cetera. And then as a leader, of course, it now gives you can't see everything that's happening at once. But if you start getting these stories and you just jot them down, right? And just have them in a repertoire, a little reserve. And then, of course, as you're hopefully soon walking around the office and seeing your people, or just getting on other Zoom calls or other communications with them, hey, John said Sarah, you were doing this awesome thing, and I really appreciate it. And you can it adds and it starts this sort of appreciation spiral where you've got good things to share. And maybe if you're doing your own gratitude practice, you've got other things from that. Now you have all these good things that you can talk about when you hit them. So that's my favorite one-on-one. And you can do any positive question, like, hey, what's something that's going well for you? What's some way you contributed this week? What's something really good that happened to you this week? All of them start the conversation on a positive note, which is awesome. Now, don't force it, of course. If someone's coming to you and they're really in a bad mood and whatever, hey, let's do something positive. Be with them where they are. Yeah. But anytime it's neutral, or if you think you can bring it to a positive way, those kind of questions can really start things off.
I love that, Eric, because then it gets you thinking about how, this person's really helpful with it. And you're right. It gets them thinking about workspace different. Let's say you had a bad client, and we all get those from time to time. It can put your whole headspace in a negative space without realizing, that client has a tough day. I don't know if it's on her plate, his plate, but hey, I have a great group of people I work with. We all are working together to help each other move forward in a positive light. It makes you excited to come to work.
It does, which is hugely important.
Yes. Now let's talk a little bit before we go about being one-on-one, because so many people got stuck, and maybe they didn't have a family like we're blessed with, and they felt that really deep loss of social connection because they are single pretty much and being locked at home. And even though you have those Zoom calls with your coworkers, it still does not feel like one-on-one and having people around you. What's some of the things you found could be helpful for people who are dealing with being single without a family?
Yeah. So, I want to turn that on its head for a second and say, because there's a team-oriented connection that I really want to share, which is because we all have teams that have people like this on it. We really want to try to be proactive about creating some space in our meetings to create social connection. And my favorite thing that I learned just in the last year or so, and I've been using it regularly. A friend of mine, Scott Crabtree, who's another happiness speaker up in the Northwest, he calls it a Pecha Kucha presentation. Okay? It doesn't matter what the name is, but what it is you ask each person on the team to pull together 10 photos of their life outside of work. Of their hobbies and their passions and the people that are important to them and whatever they're willing to share at work, right? I mean, obviously they need to be willing to share this, but tell them 10 photos of hobbies and communities that they're part of. And then at the beginning of your weekly team meeting, you just pick one person and they present their 10 slides, but it's important that they only get 20 seconds per photo, 15 to 20 seconds per photo, right? So it's got to be quick. Because otherwise you could spend the whole meeting talking about someone's personal life, right? And that's awesome in some ways, but you also have an agenda you need to get to. So the idea is in 2 or 3 minutes, someone comes up and they just share, hey, this is my wife and kids, and this is my dog, and here's why it's meaningful to me. And like for me, I'm a beekeeper. So I have a picture of my bees and me in my suit, and I've got some free diving things that I did, and then I went through a cancer thing. So I have my hospital after the surgery and all these things. There's not enough time to tell whole stories, but there's a lot of time to plant seeds about yourself.
Yeah. And then people want to ask you after the meeting,
exactly.
let's tell me more about that.
It creates all these conversation opportunities and be like, oh, I told you, I've been thinking about being a beekeeper. What, don't you get stung all the time? What, and you get all these great questions. And that's the kind of connections that you want to create. I love that. Right. As well as, you just get a feel for who this person is. Yeah. And if you're one of those people that you have this kind of conflict and distrust with, and then you see how much they care for their dog, right? And you see how much they're involved in their church and they really do good works with whatever community it is. You're like, oh, maybe I'm interpreting what they're doing in a bad light. And it often can change that. Not 100% of the time, right? Yeah. Sometimes we just have personality conflicts that don't work. But all you need to do is plant those seeds. And that's hugely important.
Wow. So, well, that was just a wonderful way to end our chat, and so much for people to food for thought and things to put into work that could really build connection between each other, which is more what we need as humans all the time, no matter what's going on. Yeah. But I don't want
more so now.
Oh my God, tell me about it. Where do people find out more about you and get a wonderful copy of Put Happiness to Work? How do they get a copy?
So puthappiness-to-work.com is a website about the book, and it has all the links. So if obviously you just go to Amazon and put it in if that's your preferred, but it's got Amazon and Barnes and Noble and independent bookstores and other options. So you can do there. I've also got I'm offering a free workshop that sort of kicks off the book so that it sort of orients people and then gives them some nice tools to work from. And so if they buy the book, then they can sign up for that free workshop, which is going to happen in a few weeks. Awesome. So those are two ways. And then my personal website is erickarpinski.com. And that has all my speaking videos and all the things. And I'm really active on LinkedIn, and that's just LinkedIn/Eric Karpinski. Oh, and I've got a new blog/advice column that my wife and I put together that just got accepted by Psychology Today.
Congrats.
So, thanks. So we're going to be regular contributors to Psychology Today, and that's going to be, so we'll certainly post about that at LinkedIn, and if they want to get on my mailing list, they can do that on either of my websites.
That is, wow, completely fabulous. I'm so happy for both of you. That's wonderful. And so everyone, please go get a copy today, because we want to put happiness back in our lives. And if you've been stressed, this is just the way to alleviate stress, build connection again. And thank you so much, Eric, for coming to Savvy Broadcasting.
Thank you so much, Christina. It was really fun.
Get ready. I have some exciting news. On August 26th, Savvy Broadcast will release a new series, Forbidden Speech, The Raw Truth. We'll touch on hot topics that affect us all, from COVID to politics to current events. We'll bring in all perspectives to have an honest conversation about things and what we can do to make the world a better place. Tune in and listen on savvybroadcasting.com.